Another local reality star is in trouble with the law.
This time, it's the cake boss.
What really happened to Cake Boss? Once a global sensation with jaw-dropping cakes and unforgettable family moments, the show suddenly disappeared from the spotlight. Was it burnout, behind-the-scenes drama, or something more?
One of the things that I love most about my show is that when I travel the world, a lot of people tell me that we inspire them to want to bake. We inspire them to, want to go to culinary school.
In this video, we uncover the rise, the fame, the fall, and the untold truth behind Buddy Valastro's empire. You won't believe how it all unfolded. Buddy Valastro was born Bartolo Valastro Jr. on March 3, 1977. He grew up in a large Italian-American family as one of 5 children. His father, Bartolo Valastro Sr., was the proud owner of Carlo's Bakery, a small but well-regarded bakery in Hoboken. Established in 1910 and bought by the Valastro family in 1964, the bakery had a strong reputation in the community for its classic Italian pastries and cakes. From a young age, Buddy was exposed to the world of baking. While many children his age might have been playing outside or watching cartoons, Buddy spent hours in the bakery alongside his father and other family members. He was fascinated by the art of baking and began to absorb everything he could, observing, helping, and eventually learning the ropes firsthand. It quickly became clear that he had a natural flair for cake decoration and pastry work. As he grew older, Buddy became more involved in the day-to-day operations of the business. But life, as it often does, brought a sudden and difficult challenge. When Buddy was just 17 years old, his father passed away from lung cancer. It was a devastating blow for the entire family, both emotionally and practically. With his father gone, the future of Carlo's Bakery was uncertain. Buddy, still a teenager and without much formal business experience, suddenly found himself in charge of the family bakery. Taking on such responsibility at a young age was no easy task. The pressure of running the business, keeping the legacy alive, and supporting his family weighed heavily on Buddy. Fortunately, he wasn't entirely alone. His mother, Mary Valastro, played a crucial role during this transitional period. She provided emotional support and helped guide some of the business decisions, ensuring that the bakery remained a family-run operation. Her presence helped maintain stability while Buddy learned how to navigate the complexities of managing a business. Over time, Buddy began to put his own stamp on Carlo's Bakery. He respected tradition, but he also had a vision for growth and creativity. He introduced new recipes, experimented with bolder cake designs, and gradually expanded the bakery's offerings. While Carlo's continued to produce classic Italian treats like cannoli and sfogliatelle, Buddy's focus began shifting more and more toward custom cakes, especially large, detailed, and often extravagant creations that required serious skill and planning. Word of Buddy's talents began to spread beyond the local community. People started visiting the bakery not just for a treat, but to see the kind of cakes that looked more like sculptures than desserts. From themed birthday cakes to elaborate wedding designs, Buddy and his team started to gain attention for their ability to transform just about any idea into an edible masterpiece. It's important to understand that this level of artistry didn't come overnight. Buddy spent years refining his techniques. He trained under experienced bakers, sought inspiration from a variety of sources, and kept pushing the boundaries of what could be done with cake. Whether it was creating a towering multi-tiered design or crafting lifelike flowers out of fondant, the attention to detail became one of Carlo's Bakery's trademarks under his leadership. By the early 2000s, Carlo's Bakery had gone from being a popular local bakery to something of a regional attraction. The growth didn't happen through traditional advertising or flashy marketing campaigns. Much of it came from word of mouth and media interest. Food magazines and local newspapers began to feature Buddy's work, recognizing his skill and dedication. This media exposure played a significant role in raising his profile. Buddy's approach also reflected a broader change in how people were beginning to view cakes, not just as dessert, but as a form of artistic expression. At a time when food artistry was gaining popularity, particularly with the rise of food-focused TV content, Buddy was perfectly positioned to capitalize on the shift. Behind the scenes, Buddy maintained a clear vision for what he wanted Carlo's Bakery to be, a place that combined tradition and innovation, family values, and professional excellence. This mindset guided every part of the business. He was deeply involved in staff training, product development, and customer service. He also placed a strong emphasis on teamwork, often crediting the bakery's success to the dedication and talent of his family and employees. What also made Carlo's Bakery special during this time was its authenticity. The team was made up of relatives and close friends, many of whom had been part of the bakery long before fame arrived. There was a sense of trust and continuity that gave the business stability as it grew. Customers appreciated the family-run atmosphere, and that sense of warmth became a key part of the brand. Despite all this early success, Buddy never forgot where he came from. In interviews, he often reflected on his father's influence and how much he learned from watching him work. He spoke about the values instilled in him: hard work, respect for tradition, and pride in craftsmanship. These principles remained central to how he operated the bakery, even as demand increased and the stakes became higher. The story of Carlo's Bakery during this phase is not just one of professional growth, but of personal resilience. A young man losing his father and taking over a business might have resulted in failure for many, but Buddy turned a personal tragedy into motivation. He used his grief as fuel to keep his family's legacy alive, all while carving out a name for himself in a competitive industry. In the years leading up to the launch of the television show that would make him a household name, Buddy had already laid a strong foundation. He'd built a reputation as a talented cake artist, a reliable businessman, and a figure of admiration in the local community. He'd taken the risk of stepping outside of traditional bakery offerings and introduced something bold and visually exciting, at a time when the demand for unique custom cakes was just beginning to explode. So before Cake Boss even aired, Carlo's Bakery was already on the map in the baking world. The business had expanded in scope, but it hadn't lost its soul. That delicate balance between growth and groundedness is what made Buddy's rise so impressive. By the late 2000s, Buddy Valastro and Carlo's Bakery had built a strong local following, thanks to a combination of exceptional baking, family values, and word-of-mouth success. What began as a traditional Italian bakery in Hoboken was steadily becoming a destination for cake lovers who wanted more than just a dessert. They wanted an experience. And it was this growing reputation that caught the attention of television producers looking for fresh, authentic content for a food-focused audience. In 2009, the cable network TLC launched a new reality series called Cake Boss. The show aimed to provide viewers with a behind-the-scenes look at the inner workings of Carlo's Bakery, focusing not just on the elaborate cakes being created, but also on the personalities behind the scenes: Buddy, his family, and the loyal team that helped run the business. From the very beginning, Cake Boss stood out from other cooking shows. It wasn't just about recipes or step-by-step tutorials. It was a blend of reality TV and food artistry, offering a glimpse into both the creative process and the chaotic, often humorous, family dynamics. The show's format struck a chord with viewers. Each episode followed a familiar structure. A client would come in with a unique or sometimes wild request for a cake. Buddy and his team would brainstorm how to bring the idea to life, and the episode would culminate in the often stressful but exciting process of baking, decorating, and delivering the final product. Along the way, audiences were treated to arguments, jokes, unexpected mishaps, and touching family moments. What really made the show work was its sense of authenticity. Buddy didn't try to be a polished TV presenter. He came across as genuine, passionate about his work, devoted to his family, and not afraid to show frustration when things went wrong. His strong personality, combined with his natural charisma, made him an engaging central figure. Whether he was expertly decorating a cake, arguing with one of his sisters, or playfully teasing one of the staff, he felt relatable to many viewers. One of the elements that helped Cake Boss stand out was the sheer scale and creativity of the cakes. These weren't ordinary birthday or wedding cakes. Buddy and his team specialized in creating edible works of art. They built cakes shaped like robots, landmarks, sports equipment, and animals. They crafted multi-tiered wedding cakes with intricate detailing, and even full-size sculptures that looked nothing like food until they were sliced. These designs required not just baking skill, but also elements of engineering, sculpture, and design. Some cakes had moving parts. Others were designed to feed hundreds of people. and some were so ambitious that the team ran into real problems during construction or transport. These dramatic challenges became some of the most memorable moments in the show. One particularly talked about episode involved a massive chandelier cake that collapsed during a photo shoot, creating both a mess and a moment of reality television gold. Despite the drama, the cakes almost always came together in the end. And it wasn't just the visuals that impressed. Customers consistently praised the flavors and textures of Carlo's bakery products. This helped reinforce the idea that Buddy wasn't just making pretty cakes, he was still committed to quality, flavor, and customer satisfaction. As the show gained popularity, so did the people on it. Viewers became familiar with the entire cast: Buddy's sisters, his brothers-in-law, longtime employees, and extended family members. Each person had a distinct personality, and their interactions added depth to the show. From lighthearted banter to serious disagreements, the show often explored the complexities of working with family. For many fans, it wasn't just about the cakes. It was about the people who made them. This dynamic made Cake Boss different from other food shows on television at the time. It blended the technical side of baking with personal stories. One moment, you might be learning how to create sugar flowers, and the next you'd be watching an emotional family conversation about loss or legacy. This emotional balance helped the show connect with a broad audience, including those who weren't necessarily into baking. Over time, Buddy became more than just the star of the show. He became a symbol of resilience, ambition, and creativity. He was often seen giving motivational advice, especially to young viewers or aspiring bakers. His story, from a teenager who inherited a bakery after his father's death to a national TV personality, was inspiring to many. The popularity of Cake Boss had a real-world impact as well. Carlo's bakery, once a local business, started attracting visitors from across the country and beyond. People traveled to Hoboken just to see the bakery, meet the team, and taste the cakes they had watched on TV. Long queues outside the bakery became a common sight, and it wasn't unusual for tourists to take photos in front of the iconic storefront. To manage the growing demand, the business began to expand. Carlo's bakery opened additional locations, and a line of branded merchandise was introduced. Buddy also made appearances on talk shows, food events, and even wrote cookbooks. The brand was becoming a franchise, one that extended well beyond the walls of the original bakery. At the same time, the Cake Boss brand started spinning off into new directions. TLC and other networks introduced several related shows featuring Buddy and his team, including Kitchen Boss, Next Great Baker, and Buddy's Bakery Rescue. These shows explored other aspects of baking, cooking, and entrepreneurship, and they helped reinforce Buddy's place in the wider food entertainment industry. Back on Cake Boss, the show continued to produce standout moments. One episode featured a cake for a wedding between two pets, a cat and a dog, complete with mini bride and groom figurines and an animal guest list. In another, Buddy and his team created a zombie-themed cake so realistic that it genuinely disturbed some viewers. They also accepted unusual requests like making a cake in the shape of a toilet, complete with edible water and sound effects. But not everything was fun and games. The show also highlighted real-life moments, including more serious topics. When Buddy's mother, Mary Valastro, passed away in 2017, an episode was dedicated to her memory. It was a heartfelt tribute, and Buddy spoke openly about how much his mother had influenced him, both personally and professionally. It reminded viewers that behind all the cakes and excitement, this was a real family with real emotions. What helped keep the show fresh for many years was its ability to adapt while still staying true to its core. New cake trends were explored, technology was incorporated into cake making, and the team constantly challenged themselves with more difficult projects. But the essence of Cake Boss, creativity, family, and a love for baking, remained intact. The show ran successfully for more than a decade. During that time, it helped introduce a wider audience to the art of cake decoration and baking. It also helped elevate the profession, showing that bakers could be artists, entrepreneurs, and television personalities. Buddy, in particular, became a role model not just for bakers, but for anyone trying to turn a passion into a profession. One of the first major challenges was overexposure. At the height of its popularity, Cake Boss was not just a TV show, it was a brand. TLC, the network behind the show, launched several spin-offs, including Kitchen Boss, Next Great Baker, and Buddy's Bakery Rescue. These shows continued to feature Buddy and his extended family and staff, but they also spread the content thin. While each program had its own angle, they all revolved around the same central figure and the same business. What had once felt fresh and innovative began to seem repetitive. Some viewers began to feel that the magic of the original series was being diluted. The novelty of large, custom cakes was wearing off, and audiences were no longer as captivated by the behind-the-scenes antics at Carlo's bakery. As is often the case in reality TV, too much of a good thing can turn people away. The issue wasn't just the volume of content. Viewer preferences were also changing. As streaming platforms grew and food media evolved, audiences were introduced to new types of culinary content. These included more diverse voices, modern production styles, and concepts that offered more than just spectacle. Against this shifting backdrop, Cake Boss began to feel outdated. While Buddy's energy and creativity were still apparent, the format didn't evolve quickly enough to keep pace with audience expectations. Alongside this broader decline in interest, the show and its star began to face more serious issues, ones that went beyond viewer fatigue. In 2013, Buddy Valastro was accused of paying his employees below minimum wage. Reports surfaced that some bakery workers were earning as little as $5 an hour, while the state minimum wage in New Jersey at the time was over $8. The accusations raised significant concerns about labor practices at Carlo's bakery, and public reactions were swift and divided. Buddy denied the claims, stating that he had always compensated his employees fairly. However, in 2014, he reached a settlement with the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development. As part of the agreement, Buddy paid back wages to affected employees and committed to implementing better internal practices to ensure a fair and respectful working environment. While this helped resolve the legal matter, the incident damaged Buddy's image. For a brand built on family values and wholesomeness, allegations of underpaying staff and creating a difficult work atmosphere struck a sour note. Around the same time, the show was hit with additional controversies. One major incident occurred in 2014, when Buddy was arrested for driving under the influence in New York City. He was pulled over after driving erratically and failed a sobriety test. The arrest received widespread media attention and quickly made headlines. During the incident, Buddy reportedly told the officers that they couldn't arrest him because he was the cake boss. This comment was widely criticized and viewed by some as arrogant or entitled. Although Buddy apologized publicly and accepted the legal consequences, including a suspended license and a fine, the incident further damaged his public image. Fans who had admired his humble beginnings and family-first mentality were left wondering whether fame had changed him. The incident didn't just affect his personal reputation, it cast a shadow over the entire show. Another controversy that drew backlash involved transgender model and actress Carmen Carrera. In an episode of Cake Boss, Carrera was unknowingly brought in as part of a prank involving a gender reveal cake. The scene was criticized for being insensitive and transphobic. Many viewers and advocacy groups pointed out that using someone's gender identity as the punchline of a joke was not only tone-deaf but also harmful, especially on a platform with such a wide audience. In response to the backlash, TLC pulled the episode from rotation and issued an apology. Buddy also released a public statement apologizing directly to Carrera and the transgender community. He acknowledged the mistake and expressed regret for how the segment was handled. Despite the apology, the controversy left a lasting impact and prompted some viewers to question their support for the show. As these issues continued to surface, the show also faced internal challenges. In 2015, a former employee whose identity was not made public filed a lawsuit alleging misconduct in the workplace. The allegations included claims of verbal abuse, inappropriate comments, and a generally hostile environment. The lawsuit gained attention in the media and contributed to the growing narrative that the cheerful image portrayed on television might not fully match reality behind the scenes. While the lawsuit was later resolved, it added to a mounting list of negative stories surrounding the show and its star. Public perception began to shift. Viewers who once tuned in for the positive, feel-good atmosphere started to reconsider their attachment to the series. For a show rooted in family values and positivity, These controversies created a stark contrast that was hard to ignore. By this point, the ratings for Cake Boss had begun to decline significantly. The drop in viewership was not surprising given the combination of overexposure, changing tastes, and ongoing scandals. The show had peaked years earlier, and it was becoming increasingly clear that it was struggling to maintain relevance. The decline was also tied to broader shifts in reality TV. By the mid-2010s, viewers were looking for fresh content, more diversity, and stories that reflected contemporary experiences. New competitors emerged, offering more innovative or relatable formats. Shows featuring younger bakers, international cuisines, and behind-the-scenes views of modern restaurant kitchens began to replace traditional cake-making content. In 2017, TLC officially ended production on Cake Boss. While reruns continued to air and the show maintained a loyal fan base, it was no longer the cultural phenomenon it had once been. The cancellation wasn't abrupt, but rather the result of a gradual decline that had been building for several years. Still, the legacy of Cake Boss can't be dismissed. It helped popularize cake artistry in mainstream media and inspired many viewers to try their hand at baking or decorating. It also gave visibility to family-run businesses and highlighted the emotional and creative side of food. But like many reality shows, its time in the spotlight was finite. Bartolo Valastro, for his part, didn't disappear after the show's end. He continued to work on other projects, opened new bakeries, and remained active in the food and entertainment industries. But the controversies that arose during the show's later years lingered, creating a more complex public image than the one many fans had originally embraced. Rather than fading into the background, Buddy continued to build on the foundation he had already created. He remained deeply active in the food industry, using his fame and experience to explore new ventures and maintain his presence as one of the most recognized bakers in the United States. In the years that followed, Buddy focused on expanding his business beyond just cakes and TV. While Carlo's bakery remained the heart of his brand, he looked for new ways to reach customers and adapt to changing trends in food and media. One of his first major steps was opening additional bakery locations outside New Jersey. These included branches in cities such as Las Vegas, Orlando, and even internationally, allowing the Carlo's Bakery brand to cater to a much wider audience. As part of this expansion, Buddy introduced modern features like nationwide shipping and online ordering, which made it possible for fans of the show to enjoy the bakery's products without needing to visit Hoboken. This decision proved especially useful as digital convenience became a major factor in customer behavior. In 2018, Buddy opened Buddy V's Ristorante, an Italian-American restaurant located in Las Vegas. This marked his first foray into the world of full-service dining. The menu included classic Italian dishes inspired by his family's heritage, as well as some of his own creations, such as the signature lobster tail pastry, which had already become a favorite at the bakery. The restaurant was designed to reflect the same sense of warmth and family that had made his TV presence so appealing. While his restaurants and bakeries expanded, Buddy also remained active on television. He continued working with Food Network and Discovery Plus and appeared in several baking-related shows. One of the most notable was Buddy vs. Duff, a competitive series that saw him go head-to-head with fellow celebrity pastry chef Duff Goldman. The series combined elements of competition and craftsmanship, with both chefs tasked with creating elaborate cakes judged by a panel of experts. Despite being rivals on the show, Buddy and Duff developed a strong mutual respect, and their lighthearted competition added a refreshing tone to the series. The show was well received and introduced Buddy to a new generation of viewers, some of whom may not have grown up watching Cake Boss. It was also a reminder of the level of skill and creativity that both bakers brought to their craft. Buddy also joined the cast of Bake You Rich, another Food Network series in which bakers competed for a chance to have their products sold on Carlo's Bakery's website. This show reflected Buddy's ongoing commitment to supporting aspiring bakers and sharing opportunities within the industry. It also reinforced his identity as not just a baker, but a business owner with an eye for innovation and growth. Behind the scenes, Buddy remained committed to his family and team. Many of the individuals who had been part of Cake Boss continued working with him in various capacities. His sisters, brothers-in-law, and longtime employees helped manage the expanding operations, and the family dynamic that had played such a big role in the show remained a part of the business culture. However, not everything went smoothly. In September 2020, Buddy experienced a serious injury that could have changed his career forever. While spending time with his family at home, he attempted to fix a malfunctioning pin setter in his private bowling alley. During the process, his right hand was impaled by a metal rod. It was a traumatic accident, and he had to undergo 2 emergency surgeries, followed by multiple corrective procedures. For someone who relies heavily on their hands for intricate baking and decorating, the injury was especially frightening. At the time, there was real concern over whether he would ever regain full use of his hand again. Fortunately, with the support of his family, a team of skilled surgeons, and extensive rehabilitation, Buddy made a significant recovery. By 2023, he stated that he had regained about 95% of his hand's strength and functionality. The incident served as a reminder of how physically demanding and risky the food industry can be, even for seasoned professionals. It also showcased Buddy's resilience. Rather than stepping back, he used the time during recovery to focus on planning, developing new projects, and mentoring others. As Buddy continued to diversify his ventures, he also embraced the digital age more actively. He launched Buddy V's Cake Slice, a virtual cake delivery brand designed to meet the demand for fast, convenient dessert options. The idea behind the project was simple. Customers could order a fresh slice of his most popular cakes online and receive it in under 30 minutes via delivery apps in select cities. This move into the virtual dining space showed that Buddy was willing to adapt to new consumer behaviors, especially during a time when the food industry was shifting rapidly due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. While many businesses struggled to stay afloat, Carlo's bakery managed to stay relevant by finding ways to reach people at home. In interviews, Buddy expressed pride in the evolution of his brand. He talked about how the original bakery in Hoboken would always be his home base, but he was equally excited about the newer aspects of his career. Whether it was opening restaurants, starring in new shows, or selling cake slices online, his focus remained on making high-quality food accessible and enjoyable. Another ongoing theme in Buddy's post-Cake Boss life has been mentorship. He often speaks about helping the next generation of bakers find their voice. Through various shows and public appearances, he has continued to encourage young people to explore baking not just as a hobby, but as a viable and rewarding career. He also released new cookbooks and made guest appearances on daytime shows, food panels, and events. These opportunities allowed him to maintain a public presence while contributing to conversations about food, creativity, and entrepreneurship. What stands out about Buddy's journey after Cake Boss is that he never tried to replicate the show's original success. Instead, he used the platform it gave him to try new things. His story didn't end with the last episode. It simply moved in a different direction. He became a more diversified entrepreneur, an advocate for innovation in baking, and a role model for how to evolve while staying connected to your roots. In many ways, the years following the show have been just as impactful as those spent in the spotlight. Without the constant presence of cameras, Buddy focused on building long-term value for his business, supporting his team, and continuing to push creative boundaries. He didn't let past controversies define his future, and instead, demonstrated a commitment to growth and adaptation. One of the most recognized faces besides Buddy was Mauro Castano. Mauro wasn't just a colleague, he was family. Born in Milan, Italy, Mauro moved to the United States at a young age and eventually married Buddy's sister, Maddalena. As Buddy's right-hand man and one of the lead pastry chefs at Carlo's bakery, Mauro played a key role in many of the show's most elaborate cake creations. His calm demeanor and reliable nature made him a balancing force to Buddy's more high-energy approach. Throughout the series, Mauro was often seen managing the kitchen, stepping in during stressful moments, and working on detailed pastries that required a steady hand and years of experience. Then there was Joey Fagno, another cornerstone of the bakery team. Joey, who is married to Buddy's oldest sister, Grace, served as the head baker at Carlo's. While Buddy focused on the decoration and design aspects, Joey handled much of the foundational baking work, preparing cakes, pastries, and bread with precision and consistency. His quiet strength and no-nonsense attitude made him a fan favorite. Joey often acted as a voice of reason, stepping in with practical solutions when things didn't go according to plan. Frankie Amato Jr. was another important part of the team. As Buddy's second cousin, Frankie brought both family loyalty and a creative eye to his work as a cake decorator. Over the course of the show, Frankie developed a reputation for being lighthearted and easygoing, which added a fun dynamic to the group. Despite his jokes and laid-back attitude, he was deeply committed to his craft and took pride in delivering high-quality designs. His contributions helped shape the visual style that came to define Carlo's Bakery during the show's peak years. Danny Dragone, affectionately known as the Mule, had worked at Carlo's Bakery long before Buddy became the boss. As a longtime family friend, Danny was known for doing whatever was needed, from heavy lifting to deliveries and everything in between. He was considered one of the most dependable members of the team. His nickname reflected his strong work ethic and willingness to take on physically demanding tasks without complaint. Danny's daughter Tatiana also joined the bakery team, continuing the tradition of multi-generational involvement. Among Buddy's sisters, Grace Faugno stood out for her strong personality and front-of-house presence. Working primarily at the counter, Grace was known for her direct communication and leadership when managing customer service. As the oldest sibling, she often acted like a second mother figure within the bakery, offering support but also keeping everyone in check when tensions rose. In later seasons, Grace also got more involved in cake decoration and deliveries, proving that she could handle whatever the business threw at her. Maddalena Castano, Buddy's second oldest sister and Mauro's wife, played a vital role behind the scenes. She managed the front counter and helped coordinate orders and customer interactions. Known for her quiet strength and organizational skills, Maddalena was often the glue that kept operations running smoothly, especially during busy seasons or large events. She and Mauro had 3 children, and their family life occasionally featured in the show, giving viewers an even deeper sense of connection to the Valastro clan. Mary Ciarone, the third oldest sister, brought a different energy to the team. She worked as a cake consultant at the bakery and often found herself in the middle of drama. Her outspoken personality sometimes led to clashes with Buddy and others. One notable moment from the series came when Mary was temporarily fired for making inappropriate comments during filming. She was later rehired and resumed her role, illustrating the challenges of mixing family with business. Despite the tension, her knowledge of the bakery's inner workings and her passion for the business were never in question. Lisa Valastro, Buddy's wife, also played a part in the operations. Though she wasn't as frequently involved in baking, she helped manage the storefront and took on responsibilities related to billing and administration. Lisa's presence in the show offered viewers a glimpse into Buddy's home life and the balance he tried to maintain between running a business and being a husband and father. Together, Buddy and Lisa have 4 children: Sofia, Bartolo Buddy III, Marco, and Carlo. The children were occasionally featured in episodes, especially during family events or celebrations. Not all cast members had smooth paths. Remigio Remy Gonzalez, who was married to Lisa Valastro and served as Buddy's former right-hand man, had a significant fall from grace. He was arrested in 2010 and later sentenced to prison for sexual assault. This event had a major impact on the show, as Remy had been a visible and active part of earlier seasons. His departure and the nature of the charges created a somber and serious moment in the show's history. Following the incident, Lisa divorced Remy, and he did not return to public life after his release. Another memorable figure was Salvatore "Sal" Piccinich, a veteran employee of Carlo's Bakery. Sal had worked at the bakery for decades, starting back in 1964. He was considered part of the bakery's foundation and received the Employee of the Century Award in 2010. Sal's presence brought a sense of history and tradition to the show. Sadly, he passed away in 2011 after a battle with cancer. His death was a significant moment for both the family and the fans, marking the loss of someone who had given his life to the business. Stephanie "Sunshine" Fernandez added fresh energy to the team. As the first female employee at Carlo's Bakery who didn't work in sales, Sunshine broke new ground. She brought talent and enthusiasm to her role as a cake decorator, and even appeared in the spin-off Next Great Baker. Her decision to leave the bakery to pursue nursing was met with support and admiration from both fans and the cast. The team at Carlo's Bakery was more than just a group of co-workers. They were family, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. And their personal stories became a key part of what made Cake Boss so engaging. Whether it was the tension of deadlines, the joy of celebrations, or the grief of loss, viewers were given a window into a real working environment filled with real people. Even after the show ended, many of these individuals continued to work together or stay connected through the business. Some pursued new careers, while others remained part of the Carlo's bakery family. Their contributions to the show and the bakery's legacy were substantial, helping to create a brand that was based not only on incredible cakes, but also on community, loyalty, and shared history. In a world where many reality shows feel scripted or artificial, Cake Boss stood out because of these individuals. They weren't actors. They were bakers, decorators, siblings, spouses, and lifelong friends. And together, they told a story that resonated far beyond Hoboken, reminding audiences of the power of family, the value of hard work, and the joy that can come from doing what you love with the people you care about most.